Wow, you guys, here in the last few years, I've talked to audiences with thousands of people in them, and I can tell you without a doubt that this is one of the biggest moments for me. So thank you so much for coming to this. You came from Costa Rica, I believe. Wow, hats off for you. All of you that got into a car today and traveled, this should be filled with people. And I believe it's going to be, because our message is strong and it's different from what is out there. And we have a voice, we have a powerful voice. We have knowledge that is powerful and it's growing. And I believe my personality is more of world domination. And so I am so fed up with the established way of handling chronic pain and how you guys are treated and the lack of knowledge that is out there, that we're coming out swinging. And the Burning Limb Foundation is one of the most incredible organizations. You know, Philip doesn't talk about this, but yes, his CRPS is in remission, but he has another condition affecting the valves in his leg, and he has daily chronic severe pain still because of that. And still, he gets on the phone with almost every incoming patient. He shares his time. He's built this organization. I firmly believe he's as close to an angel on earth as you'll ever meet. So hats off to you, Philip, and what you've built. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to be associated with you. And so one of my favorite quotes is by B.J. Palmer, and he's a chiropractor, a very well-known chiropractor, and the quote is, "You never know how something you say, do, or think today could change the lives of millions tomorrow." And that's what we're in the business of. Philip woke up one morning and just had a thought, I'm going to start a foundation. And he's literally saved dozens and dozens and dozens of lives since then. You're Lady Liberty. You know, bring me your broken and your poor and people in pain, and they come to you, and the first phone call is through you, because we all know of those people we've lost, you know, the Al-Sidons that we didn't get to, and that drives us. So to find that passion is incredibly important. My story, my father is a chiropractor, and he was a very driven, very purposeful human being. I'm so proud to call him my dad. He's not here today. He's in our practice. He works with emotional stress and how that may impede your healing. And my dad always said, I asked him once, because he traveled to the US. I grew up in South Africa. It's a 19-hour flight, guys. It's no fun if you're not in first class. And he would make that flight almost twice a year and come here and leave us kids to come learn new techniques. And not all of them worked, but he was always open to new stuff. And I said, Dad, what drives you? Why do you do that? And he said, Katinka, it's not the 8 out of 10 people that you can help that's going to drive you. It's the 2 out of people that you cannot help. And that became my creed. You guys were my 2 out of 10. But when I first in practice, I just had chiropractic patients, and I was miserable. I remember thinking, I'm also an artist, I should have just painted for a living, because at least I'm passionate about that. I want to deal with neck pain and back pain and show people their x-rays and tell them, you need to do wellness care and you need to get in there. I want to save lives. I want to directly help someone who's drowning and pull them out of the water. And then one day, I found a new technique, because I was always looking, that dealt with the vagus nerve. And a patient contacted me and said, I have, back then it was RSD. His name was Carlos. This was 8.5 years ago. And Carlos said, I have RSD, can you help me? And I said, hang on, as I was Googling. You've always had those doctors, right? We're like, I know you just went in the other room and Googled this. That's how I started. So Googled it and thought, I think this is a great fit for this work. So I said, I don't know if I can help you, but come on in. I had no idea what I was signing up for, you guys. He came in, he's a Hispanic gentleman. His wife was holding his 9-month-old son. And he said, I'm only here because my wife walked in as I was about to shoot myself. I had my loaded pistol in my lap, sitting on the side of our bed, and I told her, I don't want to live like this. And if you love me, you'd let me go. There's no help for me. I've seen all the specialists. I've been to Mayo Clinic. I've been to Cleveland. I've been everywhere. And she said, in desperation, they're very religious. I'm going to pray tonight, and we're going to find one more doctor, whoever comes our way. And if you will go see this one doctor, I promise I'll let you go. And he agreed, but he didn't want to be there. His head was hanging down. He was white as a sheet. He had gastroparesis. And when he even had a tablespoon of chicken broth, he would curl up in screaming pain in a ball and scream. His wife would have to take their kids out of the house so they wouldn't hear him in pain. And he said, if you can't help me, I'm going to kill myself. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't sign up for this. So my dad is my mentor, and I went to the back, and I was in tears. And I said, Dad, I can't do this. What if I can't help him? And he said, Katinka, what if you could? And so I did the procedure. He went to Luby's. I tear up when I tell this story every time. This is my why I'm doing what I'm doing. In Arkansas, Luby's cafeteria is high dining, guys. So he went to Luby's cafeteria, and he went to town. He ate and ate and ate, and there was no pain. And he came back the next day, and he had hope in his eyes. And it was as addictive as I imagined heroin would be. I was hooked. I had found my passion. And so I'm incredibly lucky. Every morning when I get out of bed, I get to meet guys like you, patients that are at the end of their rope, that have been everywhere else. And I get to see the moment when you ring the bell. We have a Liberty Bell in our office. Coincidentally, Philip gave that to us the day he graduated. And that bell is holy. Every patient there strives to be there. We have a big ceremony when we ring that bell. We broadcast it live on Facebook. And it means when they ring that bell, they have the opportunity to go back to their life. They have a new chance. You may not think that conditions like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or fibromyalgia or CRPS come with any blessing, but I'm telling you, it can be a gift in that it's like a near-death experience. And when you get your life back, you're going to live with an appreciation that most of us mortals don't have. You're being given a second chance, and that truly can be an amazing thing. When we help a patient, we're not just helping to save that patient, but we're helping their families. Jackie, can you and your family stand up for me, if you don't mind? Jackie and her daughters are Ava, Leonore, and Claire, and Will, her husband. She has 2 sisters here and her mom. Jackie was very vivacious, beautiful mom, and when she got CRPS, it took her whole family with it. So these conditions have ripples that go out, and when we give that life back, when we get to assist in that, your children get you back. Your parents get you back. You get to contribute to society again, and that is such an amazing, beautiful thing. I want to talk about myths surrounding these conditions, and obviously I don't have hours up here, so I'm going to touch on the important things that you guys have been told. This is going to be controversial, and I decided last night after us as a group sat down and I said, well, I'm not supposed to say the word cure. It's a dirty word, right? If you go in a support group and say I was cured, you're asking to be attacked, and my exiting patients always deal with that. I don't care what the word is, but if you live 8.5 years like Carlos has, he's had his gallbladder out, he's had a fracture with no return of CRPS, you can call it pineapple for all I care, but it sure resembles a cure, doesn't it? There is hope for what you guys suffer from. As Dr. Hanali said, we've treated now almost 300 patients with complex regional pain syndrome alone. We just hit our 24th country, patients traveling in from across the world, 5 Australians now. And we did a poll recently. It was not a very scientific poll, but it was a strict poll. I had my staff and myself, and we contacted the patients we could get in touch with, 52 ex-patients. And we said, please rate your overall comfort level now. And then we took that comfort level and we averaged it out, and we were very strict. We didn't cut ourselves any corners. And the average improvement in pain was rated at 84%. 84%, guys, those are darn good odds. When you are first diagnosed and you go on the internet, you want to jump off a cliff. You go on Wikipedia and you think, oh my gosh, there is no help for me. Then you go to your doctor and neurologist and pain management doctors, and they tell you the same thing because that is all that they have seen. But I'm telling you, after working with 300 patients just like you, you're not special. Your condition is not that horrible. I know you all feel like I'm that one person. They say hardly anyone's going to react to this drug, then you guys typically would. You're that 1 out of 10, right? You want that short straw. But we work with patients just like you. We work with patients that have been bedridden for 5 years, 10 years, that have been in wheelchairs, that cannot walk, that cannot eat, and there is hope for you. Now, if you are in this room and you suffered from EDS or CRPS and you are now in remission, could you please stand up? Thank you. We've got Emily back there with EDS. Philip, our other 3 patients, CRPS. You guys, this is just from Cincinnati. We have patients all over the country. We have patients from here that are not here today. But does that give you hope? A glimmer of hope? My clinic, we just renamed it. We were the Neurologic Relief Center, and it is called the Spero Clinic. Spero means hope in Italian and in Latin. And there is a Latin proverb that goes, dum spero spero. And what it means is, while I breathe, I hope. And if you leave with no other message except for that one today, that's going to be enough. In our clinic, we know that our very first job, the most important thing we can do is to instill hope in the patient again. That's the first step. We know when that moment happens. We can see it in the patient's eyes. And once you have that, half the battle has been won, maybe more than half. And so hope is very, very important ingredient, part of your journey. Now, our societies, for whatever condition you have, you know, there's the way, like Philip calls it, kicking the can down the street. And much amazing work is being done, helping people with assistance, like they say, to pay their electric bills and to help people just to survive from day to day. But we're not here, we're not in the business of survival. We're in the business of thriving. I don't want you guys to manage your pain. I want you to live again. I want you to remember while you're alive, why were you given this life? What were you supposed to do? And surely it is more than just not being in pain. How many miles do we have to walk for EDS and CRPS to truly make a difference? Where are all those funds going? What kind of research are we doing? I'm realizing more and more the incredible responsibility we have in our clinic to do research, to publish our results. I'm kind of a cowboy, and so in the beginning I thought, I don't care about research. We're just going to pump the success stories out. We're going to put them on Facebook. People will come, and who cares about the research? But that's not responsible. So our new drive is to try and get indirect insurance coverage for you guys. Up until today, our patients would pay out of pocket and then go home and submit these super bills, and insurance companies will just say, we don't care, we're not going to cover that. And that's been the vast experience of our patients going through treatment. But that's not fair. If they're willing to pay for spinal cord stimulators, those are what, 80,000 a pop, then why in the world would they not pay for a holistic program that is giving people back their lives? So we're designing a physical, thank you. They should pay for that because it's going to save them money down the line. We can do better than a stimulator being implanted next to your spinal cord to freaking interrupt pain signals. We can do better than that. We can do better than opioids. We can do better than pain medications and a drug that's supposed to disconnect your brain from your body, doing infusions with ketamine. Look, I'm not blaming any of you for reaching out for those tools because you're in desperate situations, and I understand that the vast majority of our patients coming in have stimulators. They've tried ketamine, they've done all of that. But if you are going to approach CRPS from the viewpoint that we have to interrupt the pain signals, you don't have the right approach. And I'm telling you right now, a cure is never going to come from a pharmaceutical company. As sure as I'm standing here, it's not going to happen. Thank you. So here's my approach. I'm obsessed, singularly obsessed with reaching 100% success rate. And I hope to see that in my lifetime. But if I can't, I just hired a much younger doctor and I am grooming him to be me. He's my, in case I'm hit by a bus, doctor. And my staff, they're like pit vipers. They came to me the other day and said, Dr. Andrew is pretty good, huh? I said, yeah. I said, you can be hit by a bus now, we'll be all right. So how that looks is we have a multifaceted approach. People will always call us and say, just tell me what I need to do. Or doctors will call and say, how do I treat this? And I want to go, oi, it's complicated because I have surrounded myself with a very capable team. You guys have listened to Dr. Hanali, Dr. Lucas, my dad. Those are just the doctors. We are addressing blood work, infections, emotional stress. I use a technique that reconnects the vagus nerve with the body. The vagus nerve, like Dr. Hanali said, is called the wandering nerve in Latin. It runs with your jugular vein and carotid artery. And this nerve acts like a second spinal cord. We're just beginning to find out what this nerve can do. It can also act like a ladder going to the brain. And if you have infections, these viruses and bacteria will use that nerve to get to the brain and cause inflammation in your whole body. So my technique, I joined forces with a doctor in Milan, Dr. Manuel Mazzini. He has a destination practice, and what he was treating, he was very happy with what he was doing, but tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and if you're in medicine or chiropractic, you'll know that is a very difficult thing to treat, but he has almost 100% success rate. And then he treats herniated discs very, very successfully, holistically. So my coach, Dr. Bob Hoffman, said, you should meet this guy. He's going to be in London in 2 weeks. And I said, I'm booking my ticket now. I met him in London. We sat down, collaborated. The entire weekend, we were not in lectures. All we did was talk. and put our techniques together. And we are teaching it for the first time in February in New York, so we can get other doctors trained in this work. And it's not just us. But that technique, you lay down on the table day one when you come into our clinic, and we put very, very light pressure on that vagus nerve to see, can we relieve your pain? That is most often the first moment of hope, because your pain will instantly drop. And that's a light bulb moment for the patient. Everybody's been looking at my ankle. You're pushing up my neck and my pain is going down? Yes, we're approaching the whole body. Then we have a fantastic cool tool called neuromuscular re-education. For this part, we do hook you up to a machine. You guys are very scared of electricity because you've had bad experiences with TENS units and other things that would increase your pain. But this is a miraculous, miraculous therapy. And how it works, first we do what we call a search and destroy, where we use very low levels of direct current to identify areas in your body that the brain has divorced. The brain is a strange thing. It's brilliant, but if you have a problem that's not going away, that's chronic, after a while the brain says, you know what, it's causing an energy leak. I cannot afford it. It's not compatible with long-term survival. And so I'm going to divorce that area. No longer do you have neurologic recognition in that area. So we identify those areas, we reconnect it with the brain, and then we start your rehabilitation. My therapists are absolutely incredible because they've trained on the ground. They spend an hour a day with each patient. They become incredibly close with those people, and they're on the ground with them, literally sometimes on the ground, rehabilitating with this current. So you're going through physical therapy essentially while you're hooked up to that current. The machine is kind of like Russian stim, but it's not. It's not like anything else out there. And in a nutshell, I'll just tell you what it does. Each second you're hooked up to that current is the equivalent of 250 normal physical therapy moves. And so when you see our videos of a patient like Joe that came in a wheelchair last Thursday, and she leaves and she's running very fast, that's because of that therapy. So we're using that therapy. We address liver toxicity, because when the liver is toxic and the gallbladder is toxic, you're never going to see permanent changes with the patient. We do scar tissue treatments. This technology was developed in Italy, and it uses shockwave therapy, which sounds awful, but we go in slow, and we're looking for scar tissue. Scar tissue is a strange thing. Nerve communication moves through the body like a wave, and when it hits scar tissue anywhere in the body, it acts like a rock in a river that's creating waves, interference in our communication. So we find that scar tissue and we treat it. And the interesting thing is your CRPS or your EDS pain may be lower body, but the scar tissue is upstairs and you never knew about it. So it is very, very important to treat the body as a whole. I'm going to read off my phone because I didn't want to memorize this. I knew I would mess it up. But this quote, Philip, reminds me so much of what we do. Whether you go into research, business, law, medicine, public service, or education, neither you nor society can continue to survive or prosper simply by implementing what is already known. Somebody is going to have to come up with meaningful new ideas, create new approaches and important new discoveries. Why can't that somebody be you? And I've decided that we have a program that is working. Not only do we have these incredible technologies, and we're always looking. I just bought a brand new lymphatic machine. And the reason I brought it in is I had a CRPS patient. We would drop her pain, it would come back 3 hours later. Drop her pain, come back 3 hours later. And so we thought we need to look outside the box. And there's a biologic medicine clinic in Pennsylvania that uses this technology very successfully. Sent a patient there that was coughing up blood. We could not overcome her infections. She came back and she was ready to work and is going into remission as we speak. So we got a hold of that machine and we're bringing it in, and it's going to be a brand new part of our treatment. But the challenge is always keeping the costs down, because this is expensive technology. You now have a staff that you have to pay. We have to increase the space that we're in. So when we bring in a new tool that is superior and does similar things to an old tool, we throw out the old and we keep the new. And that has been our motto, and we're constantly evolving in that way. So we're never stagnant. It drives me absolutely crazy when I call other doctors and I say, hey, I'm sending a patient your way. And they say, no, I'm good. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I want to say, you haven't even listened to what I have to say. What do you mean you're good? You don't know what you're missing out on yet. You haven't given me a chance to talk to you about it. And so if you have a doctor, if you're picking a doctor, whether it's a pain management doctor or a neurologist, they have to be open-minded. If you go to that doctor and you say, I'm looking at this chiropractor from Arkansas, they may have a moment of shock, that's allowed. But then after that, they have to say, all right, well, what are they doing? You know, come back, come talk to me about your results. And we've gotten an amazing team of medical doctors all across the US now interested in our work because of results that they are seeing with their patients. It's not a simple approach. It's a puzzle piece of interlocking parts. It is such a complicated beast to tackle. And so that's another reason why I think it's not going to be, you guys, one drug or one surgery or one miracle thing that's going to come through. You literally have to take the patient's body and rebuild it from the ground up. A very important part of what I do, and I've touched on it, but my staff, I wish I had them here, all 20 of them behind me. They are my right hand. We're like a family. I completely have a different employee-employer relationship with my staff because they're my family away from home, and we're in the trenches together. Every lunch, we sit around the same table and we are exchanging notes. My number one thing when I'm hiring someone is, do you have true passion to help, or are you here for a paycheck? I don't care whether you have a degree. I don't care if you waited tables before. If you have the potential to love people, then we can teach you everything else you need to know. And so that's how we hand select our staff. And you guys will see them on Facebook, and they really are as incredible in person as what you see there. The secret sauce to our treatment is love and empathy and care. There's another quote I want to read to you. When I was in clinic, doing my clinicals before I graduated, I had a doctor say, you cannot become emotionally attached to your patients. I know that you guys have been to hell and back, and I cannot imagine or pretend to know the pain that you're in every day. But in us, in the Burning Limb Foundation, in the Spero Clinic, and each and every practitioner fighting for you guys, you have a support team. Know that you are not alone. The journey to our clinic may seem insurmountable right now, but like Philip said, I cannot imagine a more difficult journey than what Joe faced from the UK. And I'm telling you, Philip is there to support you. If there is a will, there is a way. Do not ever let a doctor or a family member or somebody on your support group tell you that you cannot recover, don't you buy into that, because your life is worth saving and fighting for. So you keep fighting no matter what, every single day, until you close your eyes for the last time. I want to end, before I take questions, with one of my favorite, most beautiful quotes by Mary Oliver. Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Thank you so much for giving me your time. I'm going to take questions now. Hoping I have one, thank goodness. It is not. Acupuncture, I speak very directly, so I never mean to offend anyone. But when a patient is in that stage where they're still very sensitive to needles, I've had a few people that have spreads after acupuncture. If the brain can perceive the needle, even if it is a very, very small insult to the sensory nervous system, I think that could be dangerous. And so we're very careful to introduce anything that would be an insult to the nervous system before the autonomic nervous system is stabilized. And later on, yes, we introduce needles. And Philip, do you mind talking about your experience with needles since you've had the treatment?
Yeah, sure, I will. So I have a clotting disorder, vascular in nature. And so in the last 2 years, I have had multiple 8-day stays in the ICU to do angioplasty, balloon angioplasty. I'm the proud owner of 4 stents in my iliac veins. Part of that required me to go to get my blood drawn once or twice a week. So I was literally getting poked and prodded and having blood drawn. So here I am 3 years after treatment with multiple hardcore surgeries, multiple blood draws, like, you know, and we're talking hundreds. I'm bulletproof, you know, so that's what I would add to that.
I love that, bulletproof. And I just want to stress, Emily in the back, can you stand up again, Emily? Emily's parents were instrumental in bringing this event together, and she was just a patient that came and went home, and I'm hoping you're going to tell your story, right? Yeah, it's an amazing story, Emily, so I really want you to share that. Alice, was she going to share it later, or can I ask her?
Let's do it at the end. We'll wrap it up with that.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So we have a lot of family members who have, yeah, sure. So in a nutshell, talk about how EDS, fibro, CRPS, how you treat them, because they're different in some respects, but share how you treat.
So these are all very different conditions, but there's a large overlap. A lot of CRPS patients will have EDS and they wouldn't even know it, or fibromyalgia will be predisposed to develop complex regional pain syndrome. POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, is very big in your group. And so what we have found at the bottom is central nervous system dysfunction. And that is what we attack very aggressively. Your automatic or autonomic nervous system is the nervous system that runs your body. Amanda spoke about it so eloquently, that runs your body without you having to think about it. It just happens. Your body, every second, I mean, wrap your mind around these numbers, guys. Every second, you have 37,000 billion chemical reactions going on in your body. And every second, you have 37,000 billion more happening. So that is governed by the autonomic or automatic nervous system. And it's divided into a stress nervous system, sympathetic, and a healing nervous system, parasympathetic. When you guys come in, you are in sympathetic stress overdrive. There's a stage that's even worse than that called parasympathetic overdrive, which is a brand new thing I didn't know about till we started this new brain treatment that we're using. But when an animal can no longer fight, it will play dead. And so if your nervous system plays dead, we have to literally go reach it, wake it up, and then reestablish autonomic balance. So we have so many things we do to get that done and so many systems, but essentially it doesn't matter, like Philip calls it the alphabet soup, what the condition is that you were diagnosed with. We just started, Jim, where are you? Cole's grandpa. There you go. Can you stand up for us, please? So Jim's grandson, Cole, is in Arkansas for treatment right now, and he suffered from a concussion on the two concussions on the football field. Had a concussion, told his coach he wasn't feeling great. Coach said, "You're fine." Went back on the field. 10 minutes later, suffered another concussion. Has been in body pain ever since. Constant migraines. This is an amazing young kid with so much to offer, but he cannot even function to get anything done right now. So he has concussions, and we're approaching it kind of in the same way. So it's not cookie cutter, but our tools remain the same. And what we're doing is reconnecting your brain with your body so that your nervous system can heal from within. You were born with an incredible intelligence. Every day, your body is making 222 billion new cells. And that intelligence didn't just one day go, well, I'm not going to deal with you anymore, and now you're going to be sick, and there is no cure, and there's no help, and now we have to manage your pain. We wake up or assist the body's innate intelligence and innate ability to heal, and then we get out of the way so that the patient can heal from within. We assist in healing, but we're just bystanders to this amazing process. The healing happens from within, not through us. Did that answer it, Philip? All right. Do I have more questions? Yes. I have not, and I'm going to be honest with you because I'm always super honest with patients. That's when I'm going to have to go Google after we're done, and I will, because I don't like not knowing things. But once I look at it, when I look at a condition, I can very quickly say, I think this is a good fit or it's not a good fit. So let's visit afterwards and talk about your symptoms, and we'll go from there. You had a question. The number one tip that I can give you, well, I have so many number one tips. Start with, let's say there's just absolutely no way right now. Yes. So fibro, same thing. I always say it's CRPS light, which I don't mean as an insult at all. But I've had CRPS patients with fibro. They could care less about the fibro. CRPS is utmost importance. That's a screaming baby. Fibro is the whimpering baby. But it's dysautonomia, and we treat it in exactly the same way as we would CRPS. It just looks a little bit different. But lightning process, vital. If you're in a good headspace, some people are not, but if you can be in that headspace to say, I'm going to tackle this journey, and the very first thing I need is my wits about myself so I can think clearly and be positive and believe that I'm going to get out of this hole, is start with lightning process. The program that I talked about earlier, come to our clinic, come see what we do. We have an incredibly loving environment, and I've designed it like that. There are no white coats in our building. We're very hands-on with patients. Our waiting room is a big open area, and patients hang out. They become friends. They celebrate together. They suffer together. Our staff is very loving. So it's an incredible environment to be in just to get hope again. But while you're there, bring your blood work or have blood drawn there if we can, and have Dr. Hunley start you on the journey where we attack infections. You can go home and do that on your own. And if that doesn't solve the problem, you will set the table for success when you do come back to our clinic to do the rest. So those are good tips. Then I've heard of patients, look, I'm not before or against any specific diet, but if you can do the ketogenic diet, avoid carbs and gluten, get tested for allergens, and avoid the foods that are causing inflammation in your body, that is a huge step forward, because you want to cut down on that daily inflammation that your body is suffering and fighting against. And Dr. Hunley, that food allergy test, what is it called?
It's an IgG food allergy test. So you get two kinds. You get IgE, which is the one that your medical doctor is going to order. That one tells us if you're going to have an anaphylactic response to peanuts or shrimp, if you're going to have swelling in the mouth or a rash somewhere. You'll know if you're going to have that. That's not what we're testing for. We're checking for the slow delayed. So you want to ask for IgG food test. The company I use is L-Attest, and there are many companies out there. That's the one I'm comfortable working with. I trust those folks. We've tested them. We have drawn blood on patients on the same day and send it up several weeks apart to make sure it comes back the exact same way. So we test them from time to time. But you don't need a medical doctor to order that. You can go online. I think they even have it on Amazon where you can get the test kit. You're going to need a doctor to read it for you. But you can get the blood draw, mail it off, and get the answers.
Thank you so much. Philip, is my time up?
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, we got plenty. Let's go ahead.
Okay. I don't easily let go of a microphone, so I can go all day. I'm just warning you. Yes. Have I ever treated a patient that just woke up with CRPS? So CRPS is not an event. It's a perfect storm, and somehow you reached maximum stress before the floor collapsed underneath you. And we have to go back and figure out what brought you to that point, because it doesn't hit like lightning out of nowhere. And it's true that genetically you can be predisposed to dysautonomia, but genetics is a weird thing, you guys. It's like a lock. Yes, it's locking Pandora's box. But in order to unlock Pandora's box of horrors, you need the right key. And that key could be a divorce, or losing a child, or PTSD from childhood, or trauma, or repeated things, 1,000 small things that happen all together to create one big thing that then unlocks that lock. In our practice, we use testing to detect your genetic weaknesses, and then we support that with very targeted supplementation when you go home. Most of you take supplements because you're desperate, and so a lot of those are good, but a lot of those are not targeted, and they're unnecessary, and sometimes they can actually do harm. So it's very important that you don't just you read about something and now you take that and add another thing and another thing, but that you have a targeted approach with supplementation, and fighting your genetics is a huge part of that. Come to us. I would start with lightning process because that is such a difficult age anyway. And lightning process is amazing with young people, especially where sometimes that alone is enough to decrease the load emotionally on the central nervous system so that it can then be turned around. And that could be the beginning of her healing journey. Checking for infections, dietary changes, supplementation, lightning process. I wish I had a longer list for you, but those things are very powerful. And so that is a very, very good start. And do make sure, just for, is this a family member? Your daughter. Visit with Emily before you go today, because more than anything, I always say there's one thing more difficult than suffering from chronic pain, and that's watching your child. How incredibly and unfair and heartbreaking, because you're powerless and your child is in pain and you get to stand by and watch that. And so as a mom, you need ongoing therapy, you need support, because you have to put the oxygen on your face before you can even begin to save your child. So make sure, that would be another one on the list, that you absolutely support yourself going through the process. I'm sorry that you're going through that. Yes, I'll work my way up. Dr. Hunley, correct me if I'm wrong, but just the CBC with differential, which is one of the cheapest tests you can get, will give us a massive amount of information. And a metabolic panel. I'm so lucky to have her on my team. Yeah, she is. We're a family. Well, I say family-based chiropractic. Everybody there is family. You were either adopted in or by birth. So we're a big family, but we're actually family. And quick funny story. A year ago, one of my patients was misbehaving terribly. They had a detoxification reaction. They were really mad at Dr. Hunley, and she was not happy with me. And she called me, and my sister is someone that you cannot buy. I've learned, I've tried. She said, "That's it, I'm done with you and your patients. Can't do this anymore, not worth it, can't sleep at night. I'm gonna go back to normal, easy patients." And here she is, back again, couldn't help herself. I'm glad you hung in there, because we need you. That is a fantastic question, and that's another myth. You guys have all heard you need to be treated. Is there, basically, if you've had it for 10 years, do you have less of a chance to respond than if you've had it for 6 months? Now, I'm not going to say that it doesn't matter at all, because it's certainly very easy before the real tissue damage sets in. You know, we see incredible results that we would normally see at week 7, at week 2. So sometimes it's a little quicker, but I've treated a patient that had CRPS for 45 years very successfully. So throw that old statistic out of the window. It doesn't matter. Body can heal. It doesn't matter how long you've been sick.
Regarding the blood work, I was curious if those, and the patterns, if those figures and patterns that were shown in the previous presentation, are those specific to CRPS, or is that pretty consistent across all of these conditions?
It is pretty consistent with dysautonomia, meaning unbalanced nervous system resulting in maybe it's chronic migraines or cancer. However that results for you, we're seeing those patterns just with absence of health, period. So they're pretty consistent. You guys, thank you so much for your time.